Well, Neil, you waited over 20 years to win your first Emmy, and then you win 2 in one night. What was that feeling like last August when that happened?
It was crazy. I thought I didn't think I'd win either one of them, frankly, and I didn't even know I was up for one of them. So the Creative Arts Emmys are a great night because there's no music playing people off. Everyone that's there knows each other. It's kind of long, but everyone that's there, it's a really appreciative crowd and less showy and more authentic. So I got to sit up in the front row, and I thought Mike O'Malley was going to win for Glee because I thought he was just so wonderful on it. And then I ended up winning for Glee, which was great. I'll ride the Glee train anytime I can. And then from the Tonys it happened too, which was just it was great. I got 2 babies and got 2 Emmys all of a sudden at the same time. So
all within 2 or 3 weeks of each other, right?
And random, I think to me, the 2 Emmys come from shows that I spent, a day working on or 2 days working on. A little bit longer, right, for preparation and stuff. But I find myself chawing on the scenery at How I Met Your Motherland, and then I win 2 Emmys for other things. So that there it is.
Well, I wanted to ask you mentioned something a moment ago, not thinking you were going to win. Is that typical? I mean, you've been up for quite a few awards. What goes through your mind when they're reading your category? Do you think you're going to win, not going to win, don't have any clue? What goes through your mind?
I don't know. I always feel like it's weird to assume that you're going to win, because then when you don't, you feel really sad and bummed out, and it seems like a bit of an ego thing to feel like you're supposed to win. But then if you don't win, I feel like shame on you for not preparing a speech because you're only one of 4 or 5 people nominated. So you kind of have to be in the middle. You have to assume that you're not, but be prepared if you do, I guess. It was awful the year that I was hosting and John Cryer won. Not awful that he won, because John's great. But the day before, when we had to do the dress rehearsal, we had a whole running thing where if I'd have won, this is what would have happened. So I'm thinking I might win this right now, because are they doing this because they want to get the shots right because I'm going to win? So I had to go back around into the empty camera rooms with where all the camera paparazzi press are, and do a little bit from there, and then go into this other room. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is a jinx. This is a bad jinx, and it's not going to happen. But what if it did? I don't know. Too much second guessing.
Well, we had Tom Selleck on one of these interviews back a few weeks ago, and only year he ever hosted the Emmys, he actually won for Magnum PI. He had lost so many years in a row, and he had his cast members all backstage. They were going to do this big funny thing, the very next category, where they come out and make fun of him for losing. So all of that went to pot when he won the trophy, and they didn't know what to do when they all got out on stage together.
That's very funny.
Well, when you mentioned Glee, did you want to do that part kind of sight unseen once you heard your character was named Brian Ryan? I mean, that's one of the best character names in the history of characters.
Yeah, Glee came around so randomly. We did that 100th episode of How I Met Your Mother that I was a big fan of, and Zach Woodley did the choreography for it. So then when we had our rap party for the season, Zach was there and the people from Fox were there because they produced How I Met Your Mother, and they asked, and I sort of got everyone together and said, I want to do Glee. That's an amazing show. And so then Dana Walden said, hold on. She's the head of Fox, and she takes her phone. She goes, okay, we're going to try and make it happen. I said, really? Is that how it works? And then Ryan Murphy called, and we started talking and figuring out what exactly it is that would be appropriate. For a little bit of time, he wanted some kind of like weird romantic potential thing between myself and Matt Morrison's character, which I thought was a little like gimmicky and potentially scandalous. So I said, let's maybe that's not the best tact, but it was a great episode and super fun to sing those songs. Joss Whedon got to direct it, so I was very lucky again with timing.
Did you have any conversations at all about returning this past season or this coming season?
No conversations at all. I sent him an email
asking
how he was because I didn't know what else to say. And he's busy. Dude, he's so busy with that show. They work, I've said this before, but they legitimately work so hard on that show, all of them. They're multitasking beasts. And so, no, if they want Brian Ryan to come around some other time, that would be swell. But we're all awfully busy, so.
You just took your Emmy and ran.
What's that?
You took your Emmy and ran.
Yeah, I guess.
Tony Awards, you host a couple of years ago, you win the Emmy for that, and then you host just a few weeks ago. What was it like the second time around that you knew that you didn't know the first time around?
The second time around was wildly different because it was supposed to be at the previous years it had been at Radio City. And this year was at the Beacon Theater, which was a logistical nightmare for the producers, which made it entirely unique and kind of fantastic in its own way. It was in a theater instead of this big, giant, cavernous building. And theater takes place in theaters. So everyone that was there, I think, felt more comfortable. There weren't a lot of set pieces that were able to come on and off because the Beacon's an old movie house and not really built for theater stuff the way Radio City is with elevators and whatnot. So I had to build tents all around the theater, and all of the casts had to be bussed into one tent, get mic'd in the next tent, move like this conveyor belt. The set pieces moved from one set to here, and they'd be on the stage, and then they'd move off to another. And so it was this really tight, intimate little show that we were putting on, which just made it more fun for me.
Why do you like live theater so much? What does it do for you?
I just think in our society now, it's so easy to just sit back and watch TV, this TV screen, Apple TV, Netflix, YouTube, reality shows. You just sit there all day on your ass and don't really accomplish much except watching the same things over, which I think just makes all of the events that you're watching on kind of par with each other. It just kind of washes over you. If you're watching an amazing show like The Killing or Boardwalk Empire and then change the channel and watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, they kind of seem like the same event, weirdly, when you're sitting on your couch. So if you get off your butt and you go see something live, whether it be a Cirque du Soleil show or your kid's elementary school play or the Hollywood Bowl or take a trip downtown or go see a museum, I just feel like the act of going and doing something and seeing it live, it makes the event a bit more important and has a bit longer lasting ramifications to you creatively and otherwise. So it's harder in LA to get people to go out because they have to drive everywhere. In New York, it's a lot easier. You can just hop on a subway and have dinner, have 15 drinks, go see Rock of Ages and scream your head off and stumble back onto the subway and go home. And in LA, it's a little bit different, but I still think it's just really important. It's so fun to see things live. I get a big kick out of it. The first thing I ever saw was Fences, not first thing. One of the big things in LA that I saw was James Earl Jones in Fences, I guess at the Amundsen Theater back in the day. And he had clearly done it on Broadway forever, a year, and then it was touring with it. And I was so moved as this little white kid who didn't have any opinion or history about that world or that family. And I was so moved at, 13, 14 years old, watching this world that I couldn't imagine, feeling so real to me. And it was really live. I mean, there was dirt on the stage. It was in their backyard and a real tree that was there. And I don't know. I don't think I would have gotten that much out of it had I been watching it on Showtime.
Well, then you have a company just a few weeks ago as well, put together very quickly and performed just over a few days, and then it goes into theaters. And I think I read where you said you feel like that may be one of the pieces of the future for theater is to have these kind of productions filmed and put into theaters. So everybody.
Maybe, I don't know. It's a little bit of a slippery slope because, what makes theater special is that you're there live, but I can't help but acknowledge that if you live in the Midwest or you're not able to go see these shows, it would be nice to have some sort of recording of it. And now with high def filming in movies and the amazing sound that you get, I think you can get a really nice production out of it and be able to see things like Memphis or Company live, live-ish. So yeah, I loved doing that. That was terrifying and exhilarating, but I it's the only opportunity I get really to do theater right now.
Yeah, you have just short periods of time available.
Yeah.
Talking about award shows, in a short period of time, you've hosted a whole bunch of them between twice on the Tonys and the Emmys and the Creative Arts Emmys and the TV Land Awards and the Magic Awards. And we're an awards website, so obviously we're nuts about it. But why do you like award shows and live events like that on TV?
I kind of have always been a fan of them. I loved watching. I mean, when I grew up in tiny town New Mexico, it was a real event when you saw the Emmys or the Oscars or the Tonys or Battle of the Network Stars, Circus of the Stars. All of that was like a once live fancy event, and I just loved watching them. So it's a specific weird skill set of being a teleprompter reader and also being improvisational, I guess, enough that if something goes wrong, you can acknowledge it. If something's going slow, you can sort of come out with a lot of energy and like keep the show moving. If something goes bad, you can sort of slow things down, or, you know what I mean? You can help set the pace throughout the show. And for me, creatively, that's just a really fun part. You know, we had longer bits during the Tonys. And the show started off with Ellen Barkin winning an award, which was great, but her acceptance speech, which was supposed to be 90 seconds, was like 4.5 minutes, which is great, but you don't want to cut her off because she's the first one up. And then now suddenly we're 4.5 minutes long, which for award shows a lot, right? So the whole time we're like hoping that people make short speeches, and yet you don't want people to make short speeches because you want the speeches to be good. So we just started saying, so what should we cut? You know, let's cut this long bit. We don't need it. Should we cut it? Should I just do a straight intro? Let's just do a straight intro. So you cut that, and then you look at the time, and you see now we're 2:40 long. So we've trimmed off a little bit. That's kind of the running game. It's fun for me.
Well, How I Met Your Mother, let's talk about that for just a moment. You may get another supporting actor nomination there. You haven't won for that show yet. It's going to feel kind of like a letdown maybe for you at the Emmys. You can't have 3 nominations this year. The most I think you can have is 1. But have you have an episode from this past season in mind? Should you get nominated?
I would say one of the John Lithgow episodes, probably the one where I first meet my dad. The second one where I go party with him was probably a little more out there and extreme. But I think, I don't really know. You guys harsh on me for choosing the wrong episodes every year. So I'll probably frankly read your blogs and boards and see what you think I should do. And then I'll probably do that one.
Well, just to be honest, you've been about half and half. You've had really good choices, and sometimes we scratched our heads and wondered why.
When did you wonder why? Because I want to defend myself.
Okay, the year that John Cryer won.
Yeah.
The one where you're throwing the TVs out in the alley. I don't know that was your best choice.
Yeah. No, but those were different years, weren't they?
I think that was that year. Almost.
The year
I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, that was a tricky year because I was trying to figure out, I might overthink it. You're trying to imagine, because I think the rules are that you don't submit the whole episode, is that they take your scenes and they edit them back to back so that your chunk is together, right? That was
the way it was for years, but it changed 2 years ago, right, when you submitted that one. I guess now it's the whole episode. So when you're off screen, that's not taken into account, but it doesn't help you at all. You need. I think you're on the right track this year with maybe that first John Lithgow episode because it's funny, but you got some emotional punch.
But you have to contemplate the B story or the A story in Barney's case, because he's not really part of the main story, generally speaking. So I didn't want to choose an episode that seemed less effective as an overall show. So I was trying to find an episode that could be scene to scene together, that would have a bit of an arc, that would show some kind of manic funny,
right,
but that was still in the context of a good show. I mean, I don't know. Comedy choosings are so weird because you're dealing with such crazy different styles, you know. Because I wonder, as Barney Stinson, what I usually do is monologuing and lots of catchphrasing and kind of hyper frenetic stuff. And when you're judging that against Chris Colfer's weepy breakdown on Glee about the fact that his dad doesn't love him, and those are up for the same award, it's like, so then what do? Do you counter that with an emotional scene from Barney? Like, but I don't know if that's the most effective work. I don't know.
Well, now you've got the situation as of last year, and this year will be the same, where you got guys like Modern Family guys who not only get to submit their episode, but they get to be seen on their other co-stars' episodes. So they're getting like double and triple and maybe even quadruple the time that you can have. So it's really tricky, like you say. Yeah,
we should do like a 4-parter.
Here's the situation. You and Jason Segel both need to get nominated this year.
Yeah.
You and Jason both get nominated this year, and then you can help each other out.
There you go. We can split our own votes.
Well, what else is in store later on this year? You had a major kind of a cliffhanger for Barney at the end of this past season. I know you can't say, but have they told you basically the overall arc of where this thing is headed?
They like to keep us in the dark, lest we inadvertently say something that we're not supposed to the media. But as we've gotten along and gained each other's trust, that happens less and less. They sat us down at the beginning of last season and told us what was going to happen throughout the entirety of last season. So we knew about Marshall's father's death that was going to happen halfway through the season, and then the second half was going to be the ramifications of that. We knew about Barney finding his dad as a consequence and of Marshall's father dying, of everyone kind of having their own sort of daddy stuff go on. Then I heard about it, that I was the groom about halfway through the season, and I still don't know who the bride is. And I kind of don't want to know, because I think it would inform the way that I give longing glances towards one girl or another girl. Or the one thing that I really like about Carter and Craig, and that I think is underappreciated with this comedy Emmy world, is I think that they constantly and consistently surprise viewers with their story structure and their storytelling. And so it wouldn't surprise me if it was a third party that was involved. They don't like to just pull the wool over people's eyes. You know, they call back to season 1 stuff and season 2 stuff, and they're really kind of masterful in my mind as to being lowbrow enough to sell into syndication and to have, you know, wacky one-offs where you have never seen the show and you can watch an episode of season 4 and get a kick out of it. And yet, if you're a diehard fan, you can watch this same episode and see sort of inside joke stuff that kind of play back around to acknowledge and honor you if you've been a fan for a long time. So I trust them. I kind of wish everyone would stop fetching about the mother, but I guess when the title of the show is How I Met Your Mother, that's going to come with the territory. I mean, I think we've all said in so many words that the whole show is sort of the long version story of meeting her. And so for those that are like, I'm bored with How I Met Your Mother, when are we going to meet the friggin' mother already? That's kind of, we're working a little bit harder than that to tell us.
Yeah, we talked to Craig a few weeks ago and we asked him that. Well, we didn't ask him that question. We asked him how sick was he of having been asked that question. So, which he had a good response on. And I'm sure all of you get that question all the time.
Yeah, well, and I mean, and there's something to be said for meeting the mother, but then to me it just begs the question, then what, you know? Then what happens? Now that you've met the mother, then that's how I married your mother? I don't quite know what happened.
Well, listen, we wish you the best of luck again on the Emmys this summer, and hope you get a nomination next week, and look forward to this coming season.
Is that next week?
Next, the July 14th, yep.
So then am I supposed to be doing something?
No, that's the nominations are out on the 14th.
And then do I have to do something?
You'll probably get a few calls asking for your reactions to being nominated again, but other than that, you'll have like 2 weeks to submit an episode. And
you think the first Lithgow one's the better one?
Well, I think you get the funny stuff, and obviously anytime you get to act opposite somebody like him, that's strength for both of you. But in my opinion, you get some emotional pull there as well.
Nice, well said. I appreciate your candor and all that you've done for me.
Well, I did a tiny little bit for you last year, and maybe one day I can touch that Emmy award.
Tiny little bit? Without you, I wouldn't have an Emmy.
Well, we just made sure the Academy knew how we felt, that they had overlooked something.
No, I know, but I deeply appreciate it because I didn't even know that was a possibility. So thank you from the bottom of... Hold on, I'll get it.
Oh, good.
Look at this. Look at this. Where is it? There it is.
Wow. That is very cool. How long did it take before you had your name actually on there?
I think a couple months, and it arrived.
Oh, that long?
With 2 little screws, and I was very conscientious of not damaging it.
Well, that is unbelievable. I was so excited for you.
Oops.
Very excited for you that night, and you didn't have to mention my name, but that was beyond. I never thought in a million years my name would be mentioned on an Emmy Awards telecast after following them since I was like 8 years old. So,
right on.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
You bet. We'll talk to you soon.